The reason why you feel nervous talking to girls is you're afraid you'll get killed. I'm Joseph Smith. I study social skills and dating and I coach men. I found an evolutionary glitch to be fearless when talking to girls. I'm going to give you the full course today, and this took me like 7 hours to write. Now, before we get into it, if you're somebody that doesn't have the confidence to meet women in person but you want to, or you are meeting women in person but you're not going on a lot of dates from it, you can click the link in the description and learn how I help guys completely transform that situation. The reason why men are afraid to approach women, or they get into a conversation with a woman and their brain locks up and they're unable to speak, or they're unable to flirt and escalate, is that a guy perceives that he's low status. And remember, we still have the same brain as a caveman would 50,000 years ago. We haven't evolved in that sense. And in a tribal setting, if you're low status, pursuing a girl that you perceive as having high mate value could carry along a lot of negative consequences. Number one, the women's family wouldn't want their daughter to be taken by a man of lower status. Now, why? Well, marrying your daughter into a high status family carries social alliances with it. So it would benefit your family if you married your daughter into another high status family. Also, you received more resources in exchange for marrying your daughter into a higher status family. You might have received more cows or goats for that. And so they might come and hurt you if you pursued her being a low status man. Now, another reason is that the woman who's high in mate value might have already had a high status mate who has a lot of social alliances already, and they might come and hurt you as well. Number three, tribal societies often have very rigid social hierarchies where status, it actually determines your access to resources, your access to mating, and your social influence, meaning that it's basically against the law to go pursuing women all willy-nilly if you're a lower status individual. So in that situation, you're afraid because you could get alienated, or once again, they would come and hurt you. They would come and kill you maybe. And what really reinforces the idea that a large cause of the fear that men have when it comes to approaching women, asking women out, is a discrepancy in mate value, meaning the guy feels like he has less mate value than the girl, is the fact that it's much easier to talk to women who you perceive as having lower mate value than you or more equal mate value to you. Okay, think about it. Women who are older, less physically attractive, have a history of promiscuity or failed marriages are much easier to talk to or ask out if you wanted to. And everybody knows this, right? And so as a side note that I wanted to mention in this course, this is why it's very beneficial to actually lower your standards. Now hear me out. See, men who have a level 3 out of 10 in confidence and communication are claiming to settle for nothing less than a 10 out of 10 woman. And I'm not claiming that's you, but it is a lot of guys out there. And that's not to say that you can't bat out of your league. I have certainly dated some women out of my league. I've seen it happen many times. You can. But when you're a level 3, when it comes to confidence and communication, you'll massively grow that confidence and you'll gain a ton of experience by interacting with women who are a bit more realistic, right? Who aren't Victoria's Secret models. These women will give you the time of the day, so you will get the field time, and they're gonna be excited to have your attention. And you might find out that that girl who you thought was average looking might actually be, turn out to be a great long-term partner. I've seen that happen a lot of times. So back to status. We've said that fear and inhibition are largely caused by feeling low status in comparison to the girl's mate value. So, and that's because of the potential consequences of being harmed by the tribe. Now, with that said, none of these potential consequences exist anymore. We can talk to whoever girl we want, whenever we want, and pretty much however we want. Now, we can't threaten, we can't sexually harass, but pretty much however we want, at least in America. And nobody does a damn thing about it, right? And so that allows us to use a strategy that I'm about to talk about, which it changes your neurochemistry to being fearless, a high serotonin level state, and it changes how women perceive you. It's called planting your frame. Okay, so the thing about life is that people can only perceive what you give them. So, for example, if I wear a suit and I walk down the street, people are going to assume that I'm a businessman or that I'm a lawyer. It turns out I could be a construction worker, right? So, you can actually do an experiment. Go to McDonald's or go to a store. And then I want you to ask for help. I want you to ask for something with a downward intonation in your voice instead of an upward intonation. Okay, and a downward intonation is when you end your sentence on a lower note rather than a higher note. So you could say, "Hey, excuse me, do you know where I can find the rugs?" Instead of, "Hey, excuse me, do you know where I can find the rugs?" And what you'll find when you do this downward intonation is that people will respect you a lot more and they're going to perceive you as higher status and someone who's more assertive. So you can make the decision that you're confident, awesome, that people respect you, you're funny and interesting, and that you have a ton of value. You have a lot of stuff to offer the world. So you can literally outline who you want to be. And then what you can do is plant that frame, that's what we'll call the frame, by acting like that person. And then people will start to perceive you that way. And so you might be wondering right now, Joseph, are you saying I should act like I'm confident? I don't want to be an actor. Well, that's exactly what I'm telling you, actually. I'm telling you should act confident. All right, how does a caveman learn to hunt? Well, he models the behavior of his caveman father, his caveman elders, when they're hunting, and then he becomes good at hunting, right? So that doesn't mean you're just gonna decide you're gonna plant this frame today and you're immediately gonna be a changed person. There's gonna be cracks in the new frame that you're growing. And so this is where a lot of guys get stuck. Don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about trying to get it right the first time. Perfection's the enemy of progress. So it's far better to actually appear a bit try-hard when you're gaining confidence or when you're learning new social skills and how to communicate than it is to say the same. It's much better. Like, for example, women will always go with a bold guy who's actually a bit of a douche over the nice guy who doesn't actually lead her and is wanting to make her extremely comfortable, but he never gets to the point. He never takes action. So, yeah, this is a constant throughout so many aspects of game. Learning, like, so for example, learning to actually express yourself and talk, right? This might feel try hard to a lot of people because normally men are like bottled up, some of them, and they don't have practice with expressing themselves. Learning to flirt might feel try hard at first, might feel unnatural if you're used to talking to women in a friendly way, etc. But what happens is you practice and it becomes second nature. So it's like riding a bike. Now, you need to water your frame for it to grow. So in socializing, what happens when you allow yourself to be the man is you start to get positive responses from women. You start to get respect from men. You start to have better career opportunities, which reinforces the fact that you actually are the man. You were the man the whole time. And so you might have noticed I said you have to allow yourself to be the man. You actually have to allow it to happen. And it sounds simple, like, oh, I just allow myself to be the man. But this is actually a huge obstacle for so many guys. And right now, I want you to be aware of all of the blocks that might actually be preventing you from allowing yourself to be the man. There's at least three. And number one, the first block is that change is scary. It's uncomfortable to become a different person than you were before. Most people have inertia, they stay the same. It feels weird. And then self improvement is actually weird to most people. Like, most people are not watching videos like this at all. So, unless you have like an amazing group of friends or you have a mentor, you are on this journey alone, right? There's just not that many people like that. And as I got older myself, I was truly shocked to find out that most people just do not give a damn about their lives. They much rather lay in bed or play video games than to reach their full potential and live an awesome life, live a video game in real life. I was shocked to actually find that out. So, this is why you must have a strong why. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I want to become a different person? Why do I want to become more confident with women at all in the first place? So, write down the reasons for why you want to do this. And what you'll find when you start writing down these reasons and you start thinking big, you start thinking wider, is that a lot of these reasons actually help other people in your community. Like, so for example, by you being a more confident person, you're going to be able to inspire other people. You're going to be able to inspire your friends. You're going to be more of value to women. Like, you're going to be able to provide a better experience to women, right? So this isn't just a selfish endeavor at all. Your family, your friends, everybody's going to around you is going to benefit from your improvement actually. So I would include that, personally. And the second thing that holds guys back from allowing themselves to be the man is guidelines, such as when I get X money, when I live in X city, when I have X number of friends, then I'll allow myself to feel good and then I'll be confident. And it almost never works out like that. It's always because there's actually a real feeling of insecurity or a lack of self-esteem. And then once you get the nice job, once you hit the income, then you just feel the same. I had it happen to me. Or another guideline, well, some random guy online said that I have to be this tall or I have to look like this to attract women. And I'll conveniently ignore the fact that there are, 5'7" like pickup artists who pull women like I could never imagine. I'll conveniently ignore that fact. Guidelines could be anything. It could be like, once I go to the store and I buy some rainbow sherbet ice cream and I have that, then I'll be really confident to go out. So there are all these random guidelines that people have, that society impose on people. And the third one is that modern society has subliminally convinced men to repress their masculinity. They tell you that having the frame that I'm the man is bad. Men feel guilty. They legitimately feel guilty to be their natural selves created by God. They're afraid to step out of line a little bit and accidentally be alpha. Like, that could be the worst thing a lot of guys could accidentally do, is accidentally being assertive, bold, and confident. So I just want to tell you right now, weakness is not a virtue. It's not. Letting a girl walk past you when you really wanted to talk to her and she's attractive because she's wearing headphones is not being a good person. It's just not. It's being afraid. Because if you weren't afraid and you truly believed in your value, and what you have to offer, then you wouldn't have stripped the girl of the opportunity to meet you. Wow. So the way that I legitimately think about approaching and getting better with social skills is you are legitimately being a good Samaritan. You really are. You're being a great person by approaching women. I can't tell you how many women I've approached who've been completely flattered to where it's almost like nobody's walked up to them and complimented them in years. And I'm just like, whoa, this is an overwhelming positive reaction right now. This is really, kind of weird, right? So that's how I feel. When guys lose their masculine frame, there's no risk taking, there's no sexual polarity in their interactions, or dominance in leading the girl. That just doesn't exist. They get psyoped. And so, what I've come to find is that what they tell you is bad is almost exactly what women respond to every single time. And I'm not talking about 40-year-old single women online, but real, like, beautiful younger women who are in the bars, who are on the streets. And another, note that I wanted to mention is that I've seen that Black and Hispanic men are naturally some of the best at talking to women, at least in America. And I really think that it's because they have maintained a lot of their like traditional masculine culture and they don't feel like guilt about being who they are. This is just something I've observed. It's kind of a random comment, but a lot of white guys feel guilt for being masculine. Now, back to watering your frame. So, like, for example, go straight up to a girl and say, hey, I thought you were beautiful. My name's Joseph. What's your name? Now, what's going to happen when you're really direct like that, in the beginning of like you trying to go down this journey, when you're doing this and you have a positive attitude and you're being cool, is there's going to be a bunch of women who are flattered and happy you complimented them, like I mentioned earlier. Because once again, nobody's doing it in the 3D world, and your only competition in the real world is a drunk homeless man. So you're going to get women telling you, wow, that was really bold of you, or you seem really confident, or thank you so much, that made my day. You're going to start to get this positive feedback from women when you never thought this was going to happen before, right? But you believed, but you took action anyways. And then you're like, oh shit, maybe I am that guy after all. Then what happens is you land a date with a girl and you start to get some pep in your step. Then you get intimate with a girl that you met out in public. Not in public, but you met her out in public. And you start to feel like you're on fire. So God rewards action takers by putting them in a cycle that just increases momentum. So some people will attempt to sell you that true confidence can be gained without action. That all you need to do is understand theory, or that you can sit in your room and just let go of some negative emotions, and then after that you'll emerge a straight pimp. Okay? But both of those things will actually help you, but without real world action, and then starting to get some positive feedback and wins under your belt, they're totally useless. So this is why I'm able to personally help guys who've tried for years to improve this stuff on their own, to improve their dating lives and confidence. A lot of guys just can't get their foot in the door and start gaining some momentum because either they're not taking action or they're just doing the wrong stuff over and over again. So I hold them accountable, I get them taking action, I actually listen to their interactions, or they write me field reports about what's going on. Then we make the adjustments. And so when they start getting results, their confidence increases, and then they start getting more results. And it's like an upward spiral from there. Now, there's a massive pitfall that you need to avoid when watering your frame. It's becoming a people pleaser. Because what's going to happen is you're going to want every single person to like you so that you can get a positive reaction. So this is a huge pitfall. Now, keeping it real is crucial. You can't water your frame that you are actually an awesome individual if you're shape-shifting to each individual. And when I say keeping it real, it's like this. It's like, this is what I like. You know, for me personally, I like the outdoors. I like history. I like stuff like that. This is what I find funny. You might find edgy humor funny. You know, this is who I am. When I say keeping it real, I don't mean to be unrelatable. You know, self-amusing, this is something you might hear a lot, is to self-amuse, have fun, make yourself feel good. And I think that's a great idea, honestly. But what isn't self-amusing is being alone, not having dates, etc. That's not very funny. Because, you know, you decided to take keeping it real too far, and you were completely deaf to the girl's experience. So that's a pitfall to avoid. All right, so here's an extreme example. Like, somebody might deep down really just want to walk up to a girl and be like, hey, will you come home with me? And so technically that would be them keeping it real, but it shows no empathy for where the girl's at. It's not relatable to the girl. So the way to balance it out, your realness, is through empathy. Being able to view things from the girl's perspective and understand basically where she's at. Like, have you ever talked to somebody and they started lecturing you about some like niche thing or, you know, some story, and they kept going, they just kept talking, even though you clearly didn't care at all and you weren't engaging? So that person had realness, but they just lacked self-awareness. All right. Now, the next evolutionary glitch I want to talk about is called conquering territory. When you go to an environment where you don't know anyone, like maybe a bar that you don't go to, a city street, a park where there's a bunch of random people, it can feel difficult to approach women. And the reason is because you feel like an outsider. You feel like you're in an unknown territory where you don't have any allies. Like, for example, if you were in a fraternity and you were at a frat party and you knew everybody there, it wouldn't be very hard for you to approach women. If you were the owner of a bar, if you were the owner of a club, and you had all these employees underneath you, it wouldn't be very hard to approach women. All right, because that's sort of your territory. So you feel like you're in an unknown territory because you don't have allies. But then you move your feet and you say hi to one girl and nothing happens, right? Nobody attacks you. You know, maybe a guy here and there is jealous that basically you're talking to the women and he can't. I've seen that happen a little bit. Like, I'll get some looks from guys like they're jealous, but nothing happens. So you start to feel a little more safe. And then you keep talking to more and more women in that environment and you realize there's just no danger, right? And it might be because everyone around you is a little bitch and you're the tribal chief who can talk to any girl that he wants. Or it could be because you conquered the tribe in that territory. So when you approach multiple women in a given environment, your serotonin levels increase, cortisol decreases, your mood improves, you become calmer and you get out of your head. You're able to talk and express yourself. Now, when you move to a new environment or you restart on a new day, your fear level will usually rise back up to like a baseline level, but it's a little lower than it was the previous session. So every session that you go out and you don't die from approaching women, your feared baseline decreases little by little. Now, this was some heavy hitting information on growing your confidence, but if you're not taking action right now, or you are taking actions that aren't leading to consistent dates with quality women, I can help you. If you're done watching content, I want you to click the link below and apply for my private mentorship where I'll personally help you achieve your dream dating life. You can go ahead and click the link below, and I have some more information on that on my website.